Welcome back to another episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Shane Manney to discuss the Five Stones Fight Club, Gym, and Ministry organization in Pennsylvania. Five Stones' goal is to engage individuals in mixed martial arts and fitness so that they can become both physically fit and spiritually sound, relating struggles on the wrestling mats and in the cages to daily battles in life and providing the necessary support to become moral representatives of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Five Stones uses a team atmosphere to grow trust and build a sense of belonging. By employing the biblical phrase, iron sharpens iron, relationships are strengthened, and a family of brothers and sisters is created, both in athletics and in faith. Introducing individuals to Jesus Christ through the gospel with the goal of leading them to personal salvation and a relationship with him is the cornerstone of Five Stones. Shane himself is the founder of Five Stones. He has over 20 years of coaching experience, including wrestling, boxing, grappling, and strength training. He spent 6 years as an infantry machine gunner in the United States Marine Corps, 2 years as a police officer in Richmond, Virginia, and 8 years as a private security contractor and security lead supervisor for Exelon Nuclear Security. Currently, he works in the field of drug and alcohol rehab at Pennsylvania Counseling Services. At Five Stones, Shane instructs wrestling, submission grappling, and strength training classes. As the director of the missionary committee, he oversees Five Stones' international high risk missions, working in various conflict zones around the globe to bring hope, joy, and the love of Jesus to those in need. He also facilitates the War Room at Five Stones, which is a time of fellowship, baptisms, prayer, and celebration. Shane is married with 3 children, and he has been a follower of Jesus ever since he was a young boy, and in 2016 earned his bachelor's degree in biblical studies from Lancaster Bible College. For more on Shane and Five Stones, you can check out the links in the description below. Before we get to this amazing episode, here's a quick word from one of our sponsors. Shane, welcome to the show, man. I'm really excited to have you on today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad I was able to make this work. So
yeah, definitely. So for people who haven't heard of Five Stones Gym before and the church and everything that you guys have been doing over the past few years, could you kind of walk us through the journey of how you got started to where you are today?
Yeah. So, man, it's been a long run. We've been the whole idea started in my basement in 2008. It spawned out of the idea that I remember as a kid going to church and looking around the church and just wondering, like, man, like where are all like the manly men, if you will, I mean, my dad was there, and, my dad had always been like a role model for me and stuff. And he did 23 years in the Marine Corps. And, I mean, when I was a kid, he'd take me running out the mountains, and we just, just fitness was kind of like, a normal thing that we just did, which is part of our life. And then as I continued to grow in the church and get more and more involved, that like the older I got, the more I noticed that, man, there's really that 18 to 35-year-old man is like next to non-existent in churches today. And so after I got out of the Marine Corps, I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years. I was a police officer in Richmond, Virginia for about 2 years, and then moved back to Pennsylvania. And I started going to Lancaster Bible College. So I was going to college there, and I was like, man, even then, like it was, and I'm not trying to bash, any churches or anything like that. It's not, I'm just noticing a need. Right. So a lot of the guys, we're still struggling with like just identity of who are they? Right. I mean, I think that's a general thing to say across the board. People spend a lot of their life trying to figure out who they are, and then when they find that, then oh my goodness, their life takes off, right? So as I was going to school there, I was like, man, that 18 to 35-year-old dynamic still seems to be missing. So we started doing some boxing and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that in my garage. I had a set of weights, I had a 10 by 10 wrestling mat and a heavy bag. And I just did it kind of as like a way to just kind of, build relationships, and then eventually just kind of share my faith a little bit and kind of go through that. And one day I'm standing in my yard and I'm like, man, I got like 40 some people in my yard. And I mean, it was packed. My wife was cool. She let me use the 2-car garage. And I didn't even have to I asked her once and she's like, yeah, sure. So, yeah, so it was pretty cool. So we matted the whole 2-car garage and I had big rocks out in the yard. And like at the time we were living in a parsonage, right? I was working as a youth pastor and going to school at Lancashire Bible College. And like I remember going to church on Sunday, and one guy's like, after that 40 some people were standing in my yard, like working out in my yard, doing wind sprints and tire flips and buddy carries and throwing rocks and whatnot. And one of the elders of the church comes up to me and he's like, hey, who are all these convicts in your yard? So I was like, convicts? I'm like, man, they're all my friends. I don't know what you're talking about, convicts, I mean, but that solidified the idea, like, oh my goodness, there's a massive disconnect between church world and the real world. And like, so, and you said it before, come as you are. That's great. Yes, we need to come as we are, but we don't need to stay as we were, right? So that's like a gym thing, right? Come as you are, right? You're out of shape, right? You're overweight, you're weak in an area. You come as you are, but don't stay there, right? There's always growth and progress. And so we got a place that was an old warehouse with had electricity, and that's about it. No heat, no running water. And it was wild. I met one of my best friends there through the Pagan Motorcycle Club, and which again is a whole other story. But
I have heard that one before. How the drain actually went down into the club from your kind of gym setup there into theirs, and well, if you don't have running water, you kind of use that drain for different things, and
right,
it can be a rude awakening for those below.
Yeah, they weren't real happy. They drained out in their clubhouse, and they came up. I mean, they were very gracious. So I'll tell you, I was surprised. But they came up and they wanted to have a conversation, And when they walked in, because it was like the old freight elevators, right? And they opened up like the cage, so that opened up, and then when you stepped out, you could see our cage and you could see some weights and stuff. And they were like, "What is this place?" So it was a great conversation we had. And they're like, "Well, listen, dude, it's all well and good, but just so you know, your pipe runs down into our floor." I was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry," So and they just kind of laughed and chuckled. And they're like, "Yeah, we figured you probably didn't know." But so anyways, they brought Joel up to us, and Joel's been running with us ever since. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you meet people and make all these connections in places that you never really thought were possible before.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we started growing like crazy, and we moved from place to place as like every like 4 months for the first like year and a half. We moved just because like we ran out of space, right? Or we found a better upgrade. And then last year, 2020, when everything COVID went crazy and everything, we had left one of the buildings we were in, and we did a construction project here in Annville. And we had a gentleman come to us and say, "Hey, I have this building. I'd like to rent it to you. If you help me, he'll rent it to us at a reduced rate if you help me do the construction." So we overhauled this whole building. It's it used to be a bread factory. It used to be a big bakery. And there was like missing ceilings and it was wild. So we got that thing up and running. Now we have a 10,000 square foot facility where, it's the equipment's solid. We have a ring room. We have a fully matted mat room where we do jiu-jitsu and wrestling classes. So, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
I've as someone who's been in the facility before, it seems like you guys have everything on the weightlifting side, from heavy dumbbells, kettlebells, every machine you can think of, power racks, barbells, you name it, to anything you need in the world of MMA, fighting, jiu-jitsu. Like, you literally have it all.
Yeah. And that all comes back to that 18 to 35-year-old male, right? Like, now obviously that's our target group, but we have females that train too, right? But that 18 to 35-year-old male that was missing in the church, we found out that 18 to 45 is the number one following of mixed martial arts. So through this gym, we've been able to really connect and just kind of speak into the lives of young men. And so we try, there's 5 things we try to address, right? We talk about your identity, your purpose, your calling, your training, and get you on mission. Those five things, and I think that's like all inclusive for life, right? Those 5 things. It was funny when I came up with those because I shouldn't say I came up with them. I feel like God kind of like downloaded that one night while I was sleeping. My mother-in-law was asking, because we have the gym. The gym then funds our overseas work. Our overseas work is in Iraq, Syria, the Iranian border regions, all over the place. I mean, it's been wild, but then through that, then we also do some counter trafficking stuff. And one of the organizations we began to work with, I was going to a training, and my mother-in-law was asking my wife. She's like, "I don't understand. This is like a whole new direction again." And like to the guys that were doing the training and getting tied into the other organizations that we work with, we all understood like this is part of where we're going, right? And so like I couldn't explain it to anybody, and I was like, I mean, it made sense to me, but I couldn't explain it. So one night I'm laying in bed and I'm like, Lord, I need you to like just give me the right words, right? Like you need to like download, so that when I speak to people, it'll make total sense. And about 2:30 in that morning, woke up from a dead sleep, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I need a pen and paper right now. Ran out to the living room and to the desk and grabbed the pen and paper, and identity, purpose, calling, training, and on mission was all there. And I was like, wow, like that's exactly what this is. And so through the gym, we talk about your identity, right? Your identity in Christ. Who does God say you are, right? You made in the image of God. So you have intrinsic value no matter what. Your purpose in life is to glorify God. And you do that through the use of your calling. And your calling is your talents, gifts, and abilities, right? But through those use of talents, gifts, and abilities, you still have to develop them. So there's some training involved. And once you get trained up and ready to roll, you get on mission. So that's our 5 things. That's our 5 steps. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've compared faith to like working out in a gym before, because faith is like a muscle. If you don't use it and train it and work at it regularly, you're eventually going to lose it, just like muscle. If you're not kind of refilling the bucket, so to speak, eventually it's going to run dry.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
What makes it really unique about Five Stones and everything that you're doing is that you're not just bettering people and pouring into their physical health, but also their mental, emotional, spiritual. Like you're checking all the boxes here, because a lot of people, they go to the gym and that is their therapy. That is their outlet. That is their escape from all the stress and all the issues that they have in the world. And they go there and they let out that emotion in a positive, productive way. In the sense that they're getting stronger, they're getting healthier, but that comes with a cost. You can't rebuild yourself without a little pain. You're both the marble and the sculptor at the same time.
Yeah,
and
right.
it's very helpful to be at a gym that has more of a community base, where you're surrounded by people who are on the same mission and the same purpose, probably have relatable backstories. And oh, by the way, they're not just going to better you from a physical sense, they're also going to pour into you from a faith sense. And when you pursue that faith piece, because a lot of people are missing that right now in today's society,
Right.
you find that deeper sense of identity, like you mentioned. You find that deeper purpose, that deeper calling, and then you continue to work at it and continue to train that deeper calling, deeper purpose. And that's when you go out and apply it in the real world. And I think that whole cycle that you've described is something that if we all followed that, if we all, like as human beings, found our purpose, found our calling, and then pursued that and used that on a regular basis, we as a whole society would be so much happier, so much more fulfilled, and living so much better lives. Instead, we allow ourselves to pursue things that we don't feel called to. We pursue things just because, we feel like we need to, just make it to retirement, or just make it to, this day or that day or whatever it is. And then we'll get to what we want to do. And my question is, why not now? Why not start now? I know you've got a ton of people at the gym who have kind of done that. They've been on one direction in life. They got involved in fitness. They got involved in their faith. And all of a sudden their direction changed. And it wasn't where they initially thought they were going. But every time I talk to them, they seem pretty happy. They seem to be, content with where they're going. So sometimes we need to kind of hit that reset button sometimes. And I think that combination of faith and fitness, and in your case, adding in a little bit of a fighting element to it as well, I think that really brings out the best in people and really allows them to kind of shock their system, for lack of a better way to put it, and really just refocus and reset and reevaluate their entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, we called it five stones after the story of David and Goliath, right? So, and the story goes that David went down to the brook and he picked up five stones, and it wasn't in case he missed. It was that he knew that Goliath had four brothers, and he was like, "Man, if I kill one giant, I'm gonna have to kill them all." So he went to war knowing that, look, man, there's some serious giants in here that need some killing, right, and need to be slayed. And we kind of equate that then to the idea of there's giants in people's lives, right? It could be the giant of addiction. We have a lot of people who come out of addiction that come here on Tuesday night prayer services. We have a Tuesday night service that meets right here in the ring room, right next to the cage, and we pull the chairs out, sit in a circle, and we pray for each other. And sometimes there's guys still banging in the cage, and sometimes those guys leave the cage and come out and get prayed for, which is wild. But I mean, you got guys this last Tuesday, a gentleman who I had connected with a couple of years ago came back, was like, "Man, listen, my life is falling apart. I need prayer like now." So the guys, didn't, no judgment whatsoever, no condemnation. It was just, "Look, yeah, bro, we love you. Come, let's pray for you." They all laid hands on him, they prayed for him. And then he came to church on Sunday, which is also right next to the ring room. We have that set up. We're right next to the cage. We have that set up on Sunday mornings. So there's that connect that you don't normally get in your typical gyms, right? But so we talk about slaying giants. I mean, there's, like I said, addiction, loneliness, right? Depression, anger. There's all kinds of stuff in people's lives that really just can literally destroy them. And we believe that if you can come and get yourself tied into a community of believers and let the Holy Spirit work, that all of those things will fall in Jesus' name. So that's kind of where we come from, our standpoint, our spiritual standpoint of things.
Yeah, definitely. And that whole addiction thing is very powerful, especially in times like now. I've got some stats pulled up from National Center for Drug Abuse, and these were from 2020. So this is pre-pandemic times. 10% of all adults use marijuana. 10% of all adults use prescription stimulants. 8% use opioids. 8% use methamphetamines. 3% use heroin. 2% use cocaine. 22% of all males use illegal drugs like that. And your target audience is those younger males who tend to be most at risk for that sort of thing. But addiction is more than just illicit substances that can harm yourself mentally and physically. People can get addicted to stuff like porn, and people can get addicted to literally anything. I think there's even like a TV show like My Strange Addiction or something like that. And we don't realize that anything that you're addicted to is harmful. So it's best to be in charge of your life. I like to say, own your day, and then you can own your life. When you start getting to the point where you no longer have control over your own actions, and you spend, 2 or 3 hours a day scrolling through TikTok, not because you want to, but because you feel like you have to, and that you feel like that's a good thing to do, like that's when life starts to get dangerous, because all of a sudden you no longer have control over your own direction. You don't have a plan for yourself. You become part of someone else's plan, right? And if you don't stop that in its tracks early on, and you don't take that tree down by the roots, it's only going to grow bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And when you finally get to knocking that thing down, hopefully you do, it's going to be loud, it's going to make a mess, and it's going to crash down. And if you don't take it down, something else might take it down for you, right? I like the tree analogy, because trees, sometimes we cut them down ourselves, take care of it. Sometimes they just naturally fall down. And when they fall down, what happens? Electric goes out, power goes out. We got to call someone, shell out thousands of dollars, get it cleaned up if we don't know how to do it ourselves. So it's super important to be addressing every aspect of your life. And that's a big thing that I give you guys a lot of credit for as well, is it's a very holistic approach that you're using. And you're not like claiming to be like, the next cover of Men's Health, fitness or whatever that way here. You're not claiming to be like, a world leader in like, nutrition and dietitian or anything like that. You're just like, look, come here. We don't know everything, but we know enough to at least get you going in the right direction. And if we can't help you, we've got so many people in our community that can. So you just kind of, say, hey, you need help with this, go to that guy right there, or go to this person right there. And I think there's just so much power in everything that you're doing, bringing people together with a common goal, a common mission, and continuing to pour into one another and move in the right direction.
That's awesome. That's all. Yeah. You hit the nail on that. And that's what it comes. It's building that community. It's all about relationships, right? So, and that's we talk. I think it's funny sometimes. You talked about, well, we don't know everything. We don't, and to anybody that tells you they do, they're lying. And so for us, we're like, man, listen, like humility is key in life for everything, right? You should be a lifelong learner, right? You should. There's always question, always wonder. That's what we always tell my kids, right? And that should apply to your faith. Like that should apply to your workout regimen, right? Like, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And that should drive us. And so, for us, like we talked about the identity part and the purpose, calling, training, and being on mission. Well, for when you get to the point to where they're ready to go on mission, that community aspect is huge, because you're going to then launch with those guys you've been training with or associating with. And so it's just a huge piece. And we have three ways to really engage in the on mission side of things. And we have our local side, which is the gym itself, right? Like that's the key facet. Then the second part is the church that we have. We have a church on Sunday mornings at 10:30 in the ring room. We have a men's prayer group. We're getting ready to start a women's prayer group. Actually, that's been a new thing that's kicked on. We have a food distribution process here, where if we know people that are in need, we make sure that they get food delivered to them, or they can come. We've had social workers come in and be like, hey, I heard you guys got a food bank. They'll come in and they'll fill coolers and they'll take it to needy families. We'll do some different fundraisers for different community events, and we do some community outreach meals and things like that as well. So that's all the local stuff that we got going on. I mean, we got like sports teams and we got other stuff that come in and use the facility that we kind of do some stuff, but we also on that, we also have we do provide free medical training. From time to time, we'll give a clinic where they'll come in and do like a stop the bleed, or like a TCCC or tactical combat casualty care. If I said that, is provided basically just so that whenever we always say, look, whenever a guy or a girl from Five Stone walks into a place, it should always be a safer environment just because they're there. Safer physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of those things. You should be able to walk in and be a life changer wherever you go. That's kind of what we try to push, right? So that's our local mission. The regional mission, we do the disaster relief. We have 2 massive military field kitchens out back that we can tow anywhere. We have guys that went down to Louisiana to help with the hurricane, things like that. Wherever there's natural disasters that we can get involved in, and we have the means to do it. We've connected with a group called PCCR, Plane Compassion Crisis Response. They are a group that we met while we were in Iraq doing our international stuff, and they're right here out of Leola. So it's real close. Work with those guys for different things, and then we have our international stuff, like you said, in Iraq, Syria, Burma, all the different conflict zones around the world. So we try to give those options and in overseas stuff, we're providing medical training to missionaries. We're doing humanitarian relief missions. We're doing some Bible smuggling in different various places of the world. So yeah, it's an interesting run.
That's very high risk stuff, flying over to the Middle East and just handing out Bibles. That's wow.
Yeah, you can lose your head for one, so we figure we're like, might as well take a truckload if that's the case,
Yeah. So. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing, as they say.
That's right. Moderation's for cowards, right?
Right. And it's amazing to me how such a small town group, right? A lot of people, they think Annville, PA, and they're like, wait a second, where's that? Is that near Philly? Is that near Pittsburgh? Like, where are we talking here? It's a small town, one light kind of town. And yet you guys are having such a broader impact on a global scale, not just in your own community, but across the world, in the Middle East. And you're growing your own mission in the sense that you're sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ, but you're also bettering people with all these other skills that you're providing them. Like you said, you do the stop the bleed and the CPR class and that sort of thing. I think you did one last fall in 2021. And I think it was like $10 to attend, and that included lunch. So, you get a full day of training, which is probably like 8 to 10 hours. You got your food, and it's only $10. And the impact that you have from learning those skills might save someone's life someday. So it's really, I don't think there's any excuse not to get involved in something like that when it's, really no cost. It's only your time. but the impact that can have on other people is just intangible, for lack of a better way to put it. And you continue to grow and expand as you move forward. I think I saw you guys have Tim Kennedy. Geez, I can't talk now. Tim Kennedy coming this upcoming fall, I think, correct?
Yeah, he'll be here. They're doing Sheepdog Response is doing a class here. I think it's Protector 1, I think is what they're doing. And that will be August 18th to the 21st. What they'll be on the 18th and 19th, they're using the ring room with our overhead projector, or we have church, where they'll be using that area for their classroom setting. And then on the 20th and 21st, they'll be using our mat room for all their grappling and combative settings. And then on the 20th, we're going to have a pig roast out back as well. That'll be free to the community. So we're going to do a big pig roast, and they're in the mat room until noon. And then at 1:00, we'll have another couple free seminars. We'll have a tactical combat casualty care type medical training, and then we'll also do a SEER training, which is basically an anti-trafficking training or counter-trafficking training, as far as like how to escape restraints, situational awareness, just odds and ends for what we're trying to do. Like I said, making things safer where we're at, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a whole nother point of just bringing awareness to, a lot of the issues we're facing in the world today are not just overseas, or are not just like, oh, it's only in this city or that city. Like, it's everywhere.
Literally everywhere.
There was literally a post I was reading the other day in the news about the Super Bowl being a trafficking event. And like a lot of us, we like to watch the Super Bowl and, watch the football teams, halftime show, whatever. But we often don't think about what it's like to be there. Like, I've never been to a Super Bowl. It's expensive. Right. It's out of my price range.
Yeah. But me too.
When you stop and consider, like, there's all these people there and it's chaotic. People aren't really paying attention to their surroundings. Like, anything can go wrong. Right. I'm also a big fan of the Josh Bryant approach. He calls it gas station ready. I don't know if anyone's familiar with, what's his handle? Jailhouse Strong. And his whole like training business and fitness business was built on this idea of being gas station ready, as he calls it. So you're at the gas station late one night filling up your car, and all of a sudden 5 guys come up. What do you do? And just this like whole like mental situation of, when things hit the fan, what do you do? And while we like to think that, that'll never happen to us, it's always going to be someone else. It's always some other place. Sometimes you see those situations where things hit home, and it's just a matter of time before you really need to self-reflect and think, what could I do differently right now? And I know Annville has seen that a lot locally over the past couple of years with different things that have happened there. And I think everyone can relate to something in their hometown or home state where, things go wrong and you were not prepared. So right. It should be your job to increase your readiness, so when things do go wrong, you can not only protect and provide for yourself, your family, but all those around you as well. I feel like we have kind of like a civilian duty to try and serve those around us as best as we can.
Absolutely. And preparation is the key, right? Preparation takes care of fear. So if you're prepared for these crazy events, and obviously you can't prepare for everything, right? But you're prepared for what you can. You control what you can, right? And that's all. I think that's a great analogy what you said, for sure.
Yeah. So I also got to give you guys a lot of props for the food pantry as well, because that's another common thing we see with fitness and faith, is going back to that whole come as you are mindset. Not everyone has, the money to afford the nicest clothes to, go to church in. Not everyone goes to the gym wearing Lululemon from head to toe, or Gymshark or Alpha Elite or any of that sort of thing. And I like that you guys are actively pursuing ways that you can kind of give back to people who need it and need that help. There's a lot of people who are looking to better themselves and fight for a better life and better situation. But sometimes it's just financially hard. And anything that you can do to offset that burden on someone and make them a better person, a more productive person, and someone who can better those around them is incredibly powerful stuff. And, when it comes to human life, you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to breathe, and you need water. And you guys cover the eat, the breathe, and the water part. So you got 3 out of the 4 right there. So it's just amazing how you took something that you started, it almost seems like on a whim, like you were just like, hey, we've got this group of people, let's make something happen. And
Yeah.
now to see where you've grown, where you've gone to, and yet you've never lost sight of that initial purpose of providing for people on a basic level and continuing to push them into identifying who they are as a person, what their
Yeah.
calling is, and then actively pursuing more growth within that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Good.
I was going to say the other piece to that too is just how you've evolved, right? You started as a group for 18 to 35, 18 to 45-year-old men. Now you're expanding and you're offering stuff specifically for women.
Right.
You're also expanding in that you're offering stuff for kind of like couples in a sense, I believe.
Yeah.
So, it's not just growing stronger men. We're also growing stronger women now. We're teaching women how to fight and protect themselves. And now we're also teaching couples together how to grow fit and stronger with the whole two becoming one, and not
Right.
just as individuals. And I think there's a lot of power to that, not just from a fitness standpoint or a health standpoint, but also a faith standpoint, right? Like if you think about a relationship as like a triangle, like, you put God at the top and you put the two of you at the bottom. If you both grow closer in your faith to him, you naturally grow closer to one another. And I think that having someone who can guide you on that journey and kind of shepherd you along on a road that can get difficult more often than not is super powerful and often overlooked, especially in the young adult population.
Yeah. I mean, we always say, a strong man and a strong woman create strong families, right? That's the idea. And that's not just physically strong. We're talking spiritually strong. And so when you have strong families, they build strong communities. Strong communities should make a strong church. A strong church then should actually go into the world and be able to do some life-changing things. And so that's kind of our goal. Right. It's like you said, it's the total thing. Right. In every warrior culture around the world, they've always addressed body, mind, and spirit, every single one. Right. And so to be successful in life, those three things have to be addressed, and they have to be addressed together because they all equally work together to make the person a whole. Right. And so and that's from go. We see today there's a lot of disruption in the families itself, right? Families are struggling, families are falling apart, divorce rates through the roof. And so you have this whole disjointed generation now who's struggling to find out what it means to be a strong male, what it means to be a strong woman, what it means to be a strong family, because the examples are getting less and less. And so it's really super important. And we always say, look, like come back to scripture. What does God say? Who does God say you are? And what's God's plan for life, right? That's usually the best way. The guy that designed life, probably a good idea to figure out what the original design was, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. And again, you bring up a great point. You look at just how we're trending as a society, and it's not getting any better in any aspect. And it's time for people to kind of look themselves in the mirror and reevaluate things, not continue down the path that you've always been on. And don't trust any just straight up advice that you're giving at face value.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of terrible advice out there.
Sure.
I look at like the different magazines, for example, they'll put on different relationship things in the magazine from people in Hollywood. And it's like, well, these people have been, married and remarried 4 or 5 times.
Right.
So if you want advice on what not to do, that's probably a great place to go.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
as far as like advice on how to cultivate a successful life and marriage, I wouldn't trust someone who can't hold a actual marriage for more than a couple of years,
Right.
or in some cases, not even a year. So just kind of reframing, look at the advice that you're being given and the sources of it, and just kind of make sure everything checks out like you want it to. I say the same thing when I work with people from a health standpoint. A lot of people will kind of come to me with this belief that the food guide pyramid is the end all be all to health and fitness, right?
Right.
6 to 11 servings of carbs a day, but only 1 to 3 servings of meat.
Right.
And I kind of shift their mindset of, like the size of an average bagel in America is 3 servings of carbohydrates based on the model. So like if we're only eating 6 to 11 servings of carbs per day, that's just 2 bagels. Like I've worked with people who crush 3 or 4 every morning for breakfast in like a sandwich form. And meanwhile, we neglect the protein source. And they've changed and shifted and evolved over time with those health recommendations. The pyramid was just kind of something that was infamous for a while in the early 2000s. And a lot of people that are struggling are still following those guidelines because they've never, like, they saw that and they never updated it for themselves. They didn't
Right.
stay up to date with the recommendations. So always kind of look at where you're getting information from and just kind of consider the source. And, I'll say
Yeah.
the same thing to people about the podcast. Like, if I say something and you want to see the proof behind it, like, please feel free to reach out, email, text. Everyone's got my freaking phone number anymore, it feels like. So just let me know. Like, I'll send you the articles. I'll talk with you on the phone, whatever it is, because we live in a society where we're constantly plagued by information that it's like an information overload, for lack of a better way to put it. And we lose sight of, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, we lose sight of our purpose. We lose sight of who we are in all this other noise online and on social media and so on and so on. And when we get so involved in all of that and we lose sight of where we're going, our whole life kind of crumbles around us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So sorry, that was my little tangent TED talk there for today.
Oh, that's great.
We'll stop right there. But do you have any kind of closing thoughts or closing remarks or anything else that you want people to know about Five Stones, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for a place to work out and just get involved, get connected. Come check us out. We're located at 25 East Main Street Rear in Annville, Pennsylvania, right by Lebanon Valley College, walking distance, a stone's throw from there. And you can check us out online at www.fivestonesfightclub.org. That's the number 5. We're also on Facebook, so you can check all that stuff out. We'd love to have whoever wants to come through the doors, man. And same thing like you say, conversation challenges on things. We'll tell you where we stand, why we believe what we believe, and I think that's the best part of this whole United States, right? We get to have some open dialogue and discuss and go from there. So yeah, I mean, we'd love to have whoever is willing to come through the doors. So.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys have so many different membership options. Like, I know college students like to find a place to work out that's like affordable to them, and you can't really beat your pricing, especially when it includes everything. Like, if you want to attend your
$30 a month, gets you everything.
Yeah, and that's
jiu-jitsu, boxing,
classes, everything.
Yeah.
And I definitely think there's a lot of value in being a college student and learning those basic things on how to protect yourself, as we've discussed in the past. I'm curious too, do you guys have a way for people to get involved and support what you're doing if they're not local to the Annville, Pennsylvania area? Like, is there anything that people can do to support your missions online or from abroad?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you go on our website, there's always the donation link. You'll see one of those on the website. If you'd like to do that, some people do angel memberships. They'll get a membership and be like, hey, use this for someone who can't afford it. So we also have, we're working on it's a men's group. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's we're working it to be a live stream and one that you can download that there's a local church doing here in our building, and they're going to incorporate some of our guys and some of our teachings and stuff. So and that should be international. So so that's coming. So just keep watching the website, and but like I said, follow us on Facebook, and you can get all types of volunteer opportunities as well. Like, we're going down to the Ignite Men's Conference in Lynchburg, Virginia at Liberty University, and we'll be down there doing some work there. There's all kinds of ways, like just little odds and ends that we have going on, food distributions and things like that. Kensington doing some food distributions down there in some of the heaviest drug areas. So I mean, yeah, I would say reach out via text. My number's on, it's my cell number. It's on the website. You can call there. There's the messenger link. Click on there, send us a message, ask us questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So.
Yep, and you're a busy guy because you got that phone number everywhere as well. So I'm sure you get a lot of calls and texts and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
really,
I love it. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. Never a dull moment. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about Five Stones and everything that you guys have been doing, Shane. It's been a pleasure having you.
Great. Thanks for having me, brother. Good seeing you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Brawn Body Health and Fitness Podcast. If you like this episode, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and share this episode with a friend who you think would enjoy hearing it. Additionally, if you want to help support this podcast and keep future episodes going, please check out our links below where you can support us directly or through engaging in any of our affiliate marketing links. Last, please make sure you check us out on social media at Brawn Body and leave a 5-star review, especially if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify.